I talked to my fertility doctor and I said, "What's next?" And he said, "Why don't you try the carnivore diet?" The biggest thing was not getting sick, to be honest. I didn't
Okay.
get so much as a sniffle, and everyone was terrified in the hospitals. I worked at 2 hospitals during the pandemic, and everyone was getting sick around me, but I honestly wasn't scared. I now purposely go outside, I build my base, and now I don't fear the sun. I used to fear the sun. Now it's all about experiences. I went from going out to eat and that being my happiness to hiking and being in the wilderness.
Welcome to the Hot Takes and Hard Truths podcast, where we believe in unfiltered health, healing with real food, and unapologetic freedom that can only be achieved through the salvation of Jesus Christ. Your hosts, Jen and Nora, are close friends who found each other online despite the constant noise within the healthy living social media space. Their passion for natural health and Jesus, and their penchant to lean into the hard topics of the day, led them to want to share their thoughts and ideas with others who are also in search for meaning and answers. Please welcome your hosts, Jen and Nora.
You have a beautiful dress on. Is that a dress or a shirt?
It is a shirt, one of my latest thrifting finds, both of them.
Those are always the best. I've been on this kick lately. There's a thrift store by me that is coveted by many people in Phoenix. So when you come visit, we'll have to go there. But now that I'm trying to kind of like get cleaner clothing material, last time I went through looking for just like cotton or linen, or I knew I wouldn't find like merino wool, let's be honest. But looking for those natural fibers, I spent an hour looking through the shirts and sweaters, and I found one tank top that was cotton, which is crazy because this place has a lot of clothing. And I found one shirt. There might have been others that were just kind of like, meh, but yeah, one shirt.
Nope. I don't have the patience for that.
It's therapeutic for me, I guess. I don't know. I love going and just meandering and looking around at like random things I can find. And sometimes, like for Isaac, buying kids grow through clothes so fast. So getting clothes there for him. But yeah, I find some kind of fun stuff. It's a cool place.
I'm kind of
So
addicted now, so I'll be going back. Yes.
yes. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about your story. This is like the third
Yes.
part of our introduction series, I guess we could call it. And yeah, what led you to be awakened, I guess we could say.
So I want to say this all jump started, of course, in 2020. The pandemic isn't what kicked off my awakening. It was the carnivore diet. Food led me to question everything. We had some fertility treatment that had failed in January 2020. And I was at the point where I'm willing to do anything. I was kind of playing with the ketogenic diet from 2017 to 2020. Found out I'm
I didn't
probably not,
realize
I
we were
wasn't
doing
doing,
it at the same time.
yep, but I wasn't doing it properly.
Oh, okay.
I was allowing those keto treats. I wonder why I was never successful.
Right?
So I talked to my fertility doctor and I said, "What's next?" And he said, "Why don't you try the carnivore diet?" Okay, love meat. So March 2020, I started eating only meat. I just went all in and had fun with it. March 16th, 2020, I had been working in cardiology for 10 years at that point, and I scanned the first positive patient in all of Northern Virginia. And I expected, I was a little worried. It was the unknown. And took care of that patient. A couple weeks go by. I wasn't sick yet. I should be sick. So the carnivore diet had already opened my mind to start to question things. But then when I didn't get sick, I started questioning even more. So weeks went by, months went by. I still wasn't sick from this deadly illness. And so I started questioning healthcare as a whole. I started looking at the patients that were coming in, something I hadn't done before. I started checking comorbidities. So then I started questioning the news. when what I was seeing wasn't matching what was on the news. So that was another rabbit hole I
Mm.
was going down. Then I started questioning, why is the government telling us to do the opposite of what's healthy? Why are we being told to stay indoors when the sun, we need vitamin D? Why are they closing gyms when my patients coming in are obese and they're the people that are sick? So I started questioning my food, what they're telling us about that. I started questioning cardiology, healthcare, government. That all happened in 2020.
That's a lot. That's a
Oh my
lot to
gosh.
be realizing. Yeah.
In
On
nine
top of that,
months.
probably the sunscreen too, right? Like I was just having a conversation with my mom about that because she's finally going outside religiously to like get sun for vitamin D. And so I have an app I use to track how much vitamin D you got for how long you've been outside. And you want to know how much? So I looked it in for her, typed it in, and she got 2,000 IUs. She was outside long enough. And she asked, she's like, "Oh, so how do you know?" And I told her the time frame right now. Like in Phoenix, you
Mhm.
can get vitamin D right now, April 12th, from 8:30 till 4:30 is the whole span of vitamin D.
Oh,
So it's a long
wow. That's a
time.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you should be getting it when you live here. So we talked about that. And then I told her, yeah, it has to be the UVB rays to get vitamin D. Like some people go out in the morning and they'll
Mhm.
say, "Oh, I'm getting my vitamin D." I'm like, it depends on where you live, but probably not if you're getting like first sunlight. And I said, that's why if you wear sunscreen, you don't absorb vitamin
It
D
blocked.
because it's blocking the UVB, plus
I
all the
didn't
other
start
crap you're
questioning.
putting in.
Yeah. The carcinogens?
Yeah.
So I didn't start questioning all of that until spring 2021. Then I started awakening to the antidepressants I was on, um, the sunscreen, the endocrine disruptors, my clothing, everything, my skincare products. The I was starting to look at labels. So the food labels led me into the skincare labels. And so yeah, by summer 2021, I was questioning every single thing I did and every single thing that people told me.
Now let me ask you this. Like,
Yes.
so I can see people questioning food. Like people are like, yeah, we know, like I can't pronounce this ingredient. That's fine. What prompted you to continue to go down the rabbit hole of asking different questions and questioning everything? Because some
Thank you.
people just stop at the food and they're like, okay, as long as I'm eating good food. And even those, some people, I know some carnivores that some of the food they're eating, I'm like, the ingredients that's in it, you know? So what made you keep going?
The biggest thing was not getting sick, to be honest. I didn't
Okay.
get so much as a sniffle, and everyone was terrified in the hospitals. I worked at 2 hospitals during the pandemic, and everyone was getting sick around me, but I honestly wasn't scared.
Mm.
I continued to throw parties. I think I threw, what, 5 parties in 2020? Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
I did. All my neighbors came over, all my friends. I mean, we had close to 30 people at our Christmas party in 2020.
Man, if I lived over there, I
Nobody
would have joined.
It was great. But nobody got sick. And so I just I wasn't afraid. And I don't know if it was I removed sugar from my diet completely, obviously, with the carnivore diet, and I had mental clarity for the first time. I Prior to 2020, Jen, I stayed sick. I got my flu shot every year. I would get sick for weeks after that. I was bedridden for 1 to 2 weeks after getting that, and I never connected the dots
No,
prior to
of course not,
2020.
because we're trusting them. We're saying like,
I
yeah,
did.
you've spent 20 years in school. You should know more than I do.
Exactly, and I
Yeah.
would get sick. I mean, looking back, my Facebook memories pop up, "Oh, I'm sick again," "Say a prayer for me," but I was sick 4 to 5 times a year. And so not getting sick with this illness that's spreading rampant was the biggest question for me. But then the certain shot rolled out late 2020,
Mhm.
and that's when they said, "You're going to have to get this."
Because you
And my
work in
first
medical care.
because I worked at the hospital.
Yeah.
And I said, "Why? If I'm not sick, obviously it hasn't killed me yet. Why would I have to get it?" And then that opened up the whole new rabbit hole of that agenda
Yeah.
that
I'm
I had
shutting my
never
mouth to
questioned.
let you finish. There's so much I could say with what you just
Ugh,
said.
I know, I'm sorry, but I had never questioned it before. I was always the first one. I would roll up my sleeve and gladly get these shots every year. I was forced to. My cat accidentally scratched my eye. I immediately went in and got the tetanus
Mhm.
shot. Didn't even question it. I hadn't even looked at the insert. Why would I read the insert? They said, "You got a scratch." So I automatically would go in. But then once I went through the pandemic, why are you gonna force me to get something when obviously I've lived quite
Right.
well? I lost weight.
And we'll have like a whole episode on this thing. And that's why I'm shutting my mouth because there's so much. Like, I will pull us off on a complete tangent with what you just said, things going through my mind. I'm like, I want to say this, but I can't say it right now because it's her story right now.
Well,
But
we
we
could
will
talk
have
for hours
episodes
on
on
that.
this. Yeah.
Yes. I'm trying not to focus on that for this story, but
Right.
just questioning, can natural things help us? That's when, I went down the sunshine and found out how important it is. I never sought out sunshine prior to
Oh, no.
2020. You can see I'm pretty fair, but
Yeah.
I now purposely go outside, I build my base, and now I don't fear the sun. I used to fear the sun because I was told you have fair skin, you can't go outside. Ah, so it's funny that you and I are here because of my great awakening to everything. I went to a homeopathic practitioner who had given me some adrenal homeopathic remedies,
Yeah.
and I had looked up the adrenal protocol, and that's what I had shared when you and I started talking. And you have turned out to be one of my best friends. So it's
Love it.
fascinating who I've met through this great awakening. I have completely transformed as a person. 2019, I was a Disney princess, Bryce. My husband likes to tell me I was naive to the world. I was his happy go-to place. I didn't think negatively about anything. The government was out there to save me, and I believed everything that my job told me. uh, Saturated fats are bad. Cholesterol is the enemy, and it's normal to be on multiple medications at once without ever looking at the root cause.
And
So,
how they interact with each other, which then causes you to have another medication.
exactly.
Yeah.
The side effects. One medication gives you one side effect, then you have to take another. I grew up with that. I was on what, 3 to 4 mood stabilizers by the time I was 18 years old and never questioned it. But that's another podcast for another time.
Yes. These are all like everything we talk about here. These are going to be episodes because we've got a running list of these things, of these hot topics, these hot takes. Because otherwise, this would become like a Joe Rogan episode, and we'll be like 3 hours talking here.
So my awakening did lead to me getting off of these medications, my mood stabilizers and antidepressants. I safely got off of those in spring 2021, and I'm able to feel again. And it's been a ride. It's been a journey. Stayed angry throughout this journey, um, from late 2020 until probably mid 2024. I was upset at the awakening because it hasn't been easy questioning everything. I continued to work in a field that I struggle to believe in,
Yeah.
but I just say that God has me here for a reason. I still get my God winks, I say, with my certain patients who have too awoken to health and true health, natural health. And
Here's the cool thing, though, what you're doing. Okay, so we're both Christian. We both follow Jesus, and
Mhm.
he he went to the hard places. He didn't stay in the places that all accepted him. He went to
His
places
comfort
he
zone.
knew he'd be rejected in order to bring his word, in order to bring the kingdom of God. So we are called as disciples of Christ to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, going to those places and
Ah,
bringing truth.
that's a good way to look at it. I hadn't looked at that, like,
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah. So, like, you're there and you are experiencing adversity and difficulties in that environment. But I love the stories you tell me when you hear people that finally connect and they get it. Or maybe you might be planting that seed and they might not get it in that moment. But then later on, they're like, you know what? I had this girl when I was getting imaging done, and she told me that, and now it's starting to make sense, right? I think that's a lot of
Mhm.
people that have woken up the past 5 years. A lot of them that were on one side, and then they start seeing one little truth, and they're like, wait a minute. If that's true, exactly what you're doing, and it dominoes. And then they're like,
And
whoa,
what else?
everything I was believing was a lie. Not everything, but most things. But yeah, I just want to, like, I loved hearing that, hearing you say that, and just realizing you are like an evangelist in your field and helping other people to see the truth. As long as you don't get, as long as you don't let it get to you, right? Which is hard.
I read the room, and that is something I used to be very vocal about my changes, and that doesn't come off well with a lot of people. So now I'm able to read the room. A lot of patients will drop hints that there's more out there. They complain about the side effects. And I like to say I plant seeds now. Well, maybe it's not the salt that's causing this. We actually need salt. Well, what kind of salt are you taking? Are you eating the refined versus the unrefined? Why don't you look at Redmond's real salt? Have you thought about electrolytes? Why
Not
are
a
you
sponsor
getting
of the
dizzy?
podcast yet.
Sorry, yep, there's so much more.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I start asking them questions and get them thinking. And that's I can probably do that with what 50 to 70% of my patients tend to
That's
be a
huge.
little it is because most of them come to me suffering and they're over it.
Yeah.
And the younger people I'm noticing, some of the younger people don't want to come back to the cardiologist at 30 years old.
Right. No, exactly. I love it. It's a lot of people when they get into this space, they're realizing what foods are actually healthy and stuff like that. And then they want to help others. And this was my situation. Like, then I became a health coach. Like, I want to help others. But to see your point of view and what you do, like, you don't necessarily have to be a health coach. You don't have to have any training or certification. Just spreading this awareness with people around you. And the fact you meet so many people in one day,
Yeah.
like, you can make tidal waves with where you're at.
And it's
I think.
all based on experiences. Have
Yeah,
I done some of this research? Yes, but I've lived it and I feel comfortable discussing things that I've lived. I've tried
exactly.
this.
Well, because they
So,
can't debate it. It's the truth. It's what happened to you. They can't say no, you're wrong. Like, yeah, I experienced it. Were you there?
and the other thing that did help with this whole awakening in fall 2021, I did go through my final round of IVF. And we thought, and I was already questioning things, I was questioning everything at that point. It had been, what, a year and a half into my journey, and my reproductive organs became unresponsive
Mhm.
after we doubled medication because in my head, more medication might lead to better results because I wasn't doing too great. I hadn't had success. So that led me to more natural healing when it came to fertility because I had relied on doctors from what, late 2013 until 2021.
Mhm.
And then that's when I fully believed that our way of eating, there's got to be a root cause. Why am I not maintaining a pregnancy and getting pregnant?
Yeah.
So that was a part as well that just made me dive all in against Big Pharma.
Another topic.
Yes.
Yes, big pharma. So much there. I'm really hopeful for the next 4 years that there's accountability that takes place and just overall change and shifting. I know it's a huge monster to have to overcome, but
But people are questioning, and I think that's the biggest thing we can ask. It's going to be slow, but at least it's being talked about and questioned now.
yeah, you have to. You should always question things because if you don't, that's like saying we already know everything.
Yeah.
That's pride, and we don't. I mean, in the 80s, if they didn't question things, we never would have. I don't know why I picked 80s, but like we wouldn't have evolved to where we are now. There's good aspects to some conventional medicine. It's minuscule, but there's some good and it's advanced. Like for
Yeah.
example, premature babies, right? In the
Yes.
80s,
Yes.
they wouldn't have survived as far as they survive now. If a baby was born at 28, 29 weeks, I don't think they survived back then, but now they can. So there is some like, because we keep questioning, can we do this? Is this possible? Whatever it is, there's some good, but to be like, you can't question the science. The science, what was that phrase they used to say? Don't
Science
question.
is settled.
The science is settled. Yeah, don't question science. If we did that, we would have never been where we are now, in the positive senses that we are. So yeah,
Yeah.
we should always question. Socrates was right. We should be asking questions.
And it's crazy. I didn't before all of this. I never questioned anything. And I was unhealthy, maybe a little happier, but I was
Temporarily
overweight.
happy though. Quick dopamine
Eh,
hit.
Yes, yes. Uh I believed that materialistic items would make me happy. Now it's all about experiences. I went from going out to eat and that being my happiness to hiking and being in the wilderness, finding my joy there. So it's been a fun ride, interesting ride.
What kind of things
Yeah.
have you been questioning lately? Like what's the latest ones?
Root cause of depression and the antidepressants. I had spoken to a nurse, David, who had interviewed me a couple of months ago, and he really got me digging into more root causes. I was already focusing on the root cause of fertility. So then I started with the depression aspect. And that's what I've been really researching this year in particular.
Well, I mean, that's a big hole to go down. So there's a lot to dive into there.
Mental health in general.
Yeah,
Where is it stemming from? Are we focusing on trauma? What can help? So that's what I've been really deep diving into this year.
awesome. I'm excited to talk about that because I think you've definitely learned a lot more about that than what I know. So that'll be one you'll be educating me on. So it'll be good.
I come from a long line of mental health disorders, unfortunately. My grandmother suffered from it, my mom, my aunt, and everyone is medicated. However, here's another question. Why isn't anyone getting better?
Yeah.
Why aren't these medications that they're on high doses, why aren't they getting better?
Well,
Why
and
isn't
then
their depression cured?
I think it was Dr. Amen I heard. It was somebody I heard who mentioned like SSRIs, mental health medication. That's the one drug that doctors will prescribe without checking any objective markers, checking the actual organ that it is treating. They
Yes,
just assume there's a chemical imbalance. And it's
correct.
like, and I remember I was like, as a teen, I was on SSRIs and stuff too. And it was just symptomatic. But hindsight, like, I had a very traumatic childhood with a lot of stuff going on, but they didn't ask that. They just said, "Oh, you're depressed, you're suicidal, here's some medication." And it, like, when you look at the science, it can go haywire
Mhm.
if, and I mean, that's the whole thing of you. I remember you saying there's no chemical imbalance, but like if it's not, if it's actually just environmental and they need
Yeah.
to fix that, environmental meaning like relationships around you, lifestyle, diet, etc.
Your
And yeah, I was eating,
diet.
yeah,
Yes.
I was eating crap. Mine was my medication that I was already on. Like we mentioned, medication side effect. Like the primary
Yes.
side effects were all mental health stuff. But again, they didn't ask that. They were just like, okay, here's some Prozac. Here's some, I don't remember all the ones I tried. And I did feel worse. Like I was hospitalized twice. I don't talk about that much on here, but we're talking about hard takes and hard truths. And yeah, I was hospitalized twice and just completely miserable. But they kept me on it because, you know,
They don't wanna it's a lot of money for them, and they just don't wanna dig deeper.
no, they don't. For some of them, I really try to give the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe they don't know better, meaning the prescribers, because they're only taught
Mhm.
what the higher ups are teaching them.
Okay.
And they like us were very trusting of them at that time. Like, oh, they're smart. They're the teachers. We should know. So,
But I'm
anyways,
seeing the depressing thing. I know we want to do a whole podcast on that,
yeah.
but with my patients, I'm noticing it's so s it kills me because I've been there. But these teenagers, I scan people as young as 17 years old, and they're all coming in with these palpitations, and no one is asking about their lifestyle. I, the echo tech, while my arm is all up in their boob, I'm asking the hard questions. I'm gonna be honest. Yes, I
Yeah,
am. It's a very intimate test.
yeah, yeah.
But, "Hey, how's your job going? Is it stressful? How's your sleep? Are you sleeping? Are you working out? How's your diet?" Jen, I'm not kidding. I ask these questions
That's
to these
awesome.
teen to these teenagers and these 20-year-olds, people in their early 20s. A lot of them, people in their mid-20s have babies.
Mm,
"Are you sleeping? It is stressful." And they all say, "Well, my doctor wants to put me on this anti-anxiety med because of these palpitations." And I'm like, I am not a physician. I always preface it with that.
right.
But have you looked into magnesium glycinate?
Yeah.
Have you looked into breath work? That's a big one that I need to take my own advice
I've
on.
been loving that.
Oh, I've taken some classes, game changing. So I
Yeah.
really need to prioritize that.
Yeah, me
But
too. I fail on some days. So,
having these talks, it reminds me of why God still has me in this field, just reminiscing, focusing on the positives because there are a lot of negatives of my job, but I do get to have these conversations with these young people that no one else is having.
yeah.
And, I'm able to suggest some books. Some of them are open-minded, like I said. Others just want the meds. But
I
I
had
keep
this
I do say, "You're young. Please don't."
Yeah, no kidding. I had this wild thought just now, like of how many it's like what if you created a QR code and connected it to like a list of books and podcasts and just like had it there and after scan this QR code and you will be able to save the list in your phone. How cool would that
Funny
be?
you should mention that. I just got the dot in the mail.
Oh,
So
cool.
So Bryce, because I told Bryce, a lot of my patients ask for my blog. They say, "You need to write a book." I talk a lot when I scan. I need to, so blog, book, they ask for a website, and they ask for my email.
Yeah.
So Bryce ordered me the QR code, and I need to set it up. But
I
the book list is a good idea. Yeah, I'll add that
yeah.
to my web.
And any favorite podcasts, like any ones you come across that are awesome, you just list
Ooh,
them on there. Yeah.
mental health podcast.
Yeah. You just make little categories of stuff. That would be awesome. I forgot all about that card. And if anybody's listening, they don't know. Dot is like this, like when you give your business card to people, except this is an electronic one that they scan the QR code and then it saves it to their phone, like in their address book and stuff. And I saw that a long time ago and I forgot. So I need to do that. I need to get
And
that.
you can constantly update it, which is the great thing.
Yeah.
Because Bryce, I can't tell you how many business cards Bryce has ordered, and we just throw away thousands.
Oh
So the
yeah.
dot, I think, what was it, $20, $30?
Yeah, it
It's
wasn't much.
minuscule. Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe they'll sponsor this podcast.
that would be great.
Awesome. Well, did you have any other like closing words you wanted to share?
No,
Advice?
I
Anything?
think that's it. I think that a lot of our listeners are already starting to question things, but hopefully this podcast and us sharing our journeys will have you questioning even more.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. I always love talking to you, Nora. It was a good time
Likewise.
today. All right. We'll chat later.
Thank you. Alrighty.